Hi everyone. So, following on from last week's video, Simao went through some of the work that he did on Scratch, and then he showed you a little bit about the Pong that he'd made, following the guidelines from the PDF, before going into showing you a little bit more about the game that he is building of his own design. I am going to do something slightly different. I'm going to go and try and blitz through this PDF to show you how quick and simple it really is to follow the instructions that the National Videogame Museum have put out in their document, and just to get something going to start off with. Full disclosure, I have already done this once, but I failed to record the audio properly, and so I'm having to do it again. The last time I did this, I managed to follow the entire PDF and get it all done and dusted with some help and explanation in less than 25 minutes. My expectation is, doing it the second time through might even be quicker. So, hopefully, you'll be able to see me work my way through the PDF and build Pong really quickly in about 20 minutes, and I can talk. What I'll do is I'll talk through the process, and also I'm going to show you the PDF that we're following, so that you too can also see how quick and easy all of these steps are. So, with that in mind, I'm going to swing across to the PDF screen. There it is. Oh, it's a bit small, so let's make that bigger. There we are. So we can see here. There we've got the full PDF, which I've got on my screen. Step 1, we've already done. That's what Samau and I did in our very first video from a week ago or so now, was just to look over the tools and understand where all of the different parts are on the Scratch screen, so that we knew what we were looking for. So as you can see on our other screen here, we've got all of our commands and controls that we can do, which we just drop across into the main screen here, where they all link together nicely. And we've got a preview window in the top right hand corner here, which means that whatever we're working with moves around, and that's basically where we can see if what we want it to do is doing what we want. And then we've got all of our objects that we're playing with, in particular the sprites, and then hidden away underneath where my face is, there's a place where we can add more sprites or we can add backgrounds, but we'll get to those much later on. So to start with, we've done step 1 already. First thing we're going to do, step 2, adding new sprites. So as you can see right now, we've got Scratchy the cat, which isn't going to be much use to us for our Pong. Pong is not a game of moving a cat around, it is moving a ball and a paddle. It's basically table tennis. So we're going to delete Scratchy, and he disappears, and then we're going to choose a new sprite, which will be a big yellow ball, and we're also going to add in, I'll show you the PDF screen, we're going to add in the yellow ball and then also a paddle. We're going to just do one paddle for now, and I'll explain why later, because I learnt this while I was doing it. So here's our library of free images that we can use. Here's our ball. As you can see, it comes in multiple different colours. So we're just going to select that one. And that pops up in the sprites library down at the bottom, the stuff we're using for this particular game. And then we're going to go back in, and we're going to scroll down and find. Everything's in alphabetical order, so if you know what it's called, you can find it. There it is. Paddle. If we wanted to, we could, I suppose, have a Scratchy the cat bouncing around and bumping off of mice, if that's what we wanted to. It would be the same mechanics, but just a totally different look. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so that is step 2 done. There we are. We've just put in our new images that we're going to work with. Step 3, we're going to get the ball bouncing. So this has got a couple more steps to it. This is about where we're going to start making things move. So we're going to come back across to Scratch so you can watch this work. We are going to select the ball. Here it is on our screen. And now we've got it selected. We know we're adding the code for this particular item. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to look under Events and Control, which is the yellow and orange colours on our coding screen. And under Events, we're going to select when the green flag is clicked, which basically means when the game starts. This is the first thing that's going to happen. So when the game starts, then forever, which is a control, which means that it just keeps doing it until the game's over. Forever, and then we're going to go to the motion section, which is the blue one, and we're going to select point in direction, which is this one here, point in direction 90, and if on edge, bounce. And I really like this because that's a piece of code that just exists that they've given us. They know that the kinds of games you can build in Scratch, one of the things you might want to happen is if you hit the edge of the screen, it should bounce back. Cool. Let me add motion blocks so they repeat. Add, move 10 steps, and if on bench. There we are. Yeah, so if on. So it should be. I put these in the wrong place. When the thing is clicked, point in direction 90, move 10 steps. You see, having said I've already done this once, I'm now trying to do it too quickly, and as a result, getting it wrong. So, I want to move it. I want to get rid of one of them. Let's take these apart. Oh, look, it all just splits up. There we are. There we are. So, our simple piece of code says, when we click the start flag, point in direction 90, then for the rest of time, or until it tells it to stop, move 10 steps in whatever direction it's facing, and then if it hits the edge, bounce. And let's see that in action. Turned it on now. The ball is moving and just bouncing side to side. There we are. Once it hits the side, bounces back again. And that makes sense because we just told it to move in a 90-degree angle from wherever it was. So it's just going to bounce backwards and forwards across the screen, like so, and not move up and down because there's nothing interfering with it at the moment. So we'll stop that. So the other thing we can do is we can change the thing that happens at the very beginning, which is our suggestion. So instead of pointing direction 90, it points in direction 5. And we could make that 5 or 15 or whatever it was that we wanted. And we should see that there is a slight difference this time when we press start. When it kicks off, it moves at 5 degrees. And now, because it's coming in a slightly different angle, it's moving around the space a bit differently, and so it's going to bounce a bit differently. And we could change that and make that more pronounced, so that could be like 45 degrees when it first starts. In which case it's always going to go off in a kind of around the corners way, which personally I prefer. Versions of Pong I've played, or Block Breaker, or other games that have that kind of bouncing ball mechanic, I've often seen that they kind of start off with the ball coming in at a diagonal angle straight away, which I think makes it more fun. So I'm gonna not follow the rules there. I'm gonna do the 45 degrees instead of 5, which is what it said. Okay, quickly back to the PDF. So that's step 3 done. Step 4, adding movement and keyboard inputs. So this is the longest of all of the sections, and this is the one where basically we are going to create how we, the players, or our players, are going to interact with this game. So right now the ball moves of its own accord, but the players aren't doing anything. In order to do that, we need to set how our controls work for the paddles, which are the things that the players are going to move down the sides of the screen to see if they can win. So we already have our paddle on our screen, and I'll come back to the scratch screen so you can see this. And we have selected the paddle, and you can see all that code. There's no code on this screen now because we're coding a different object. So we've got this paddle sprite. The first thing we are going to do is change its direction. So at the moment, the game would be played along the bottom and the top because we've got a flat landscape paddle. What we want is a vertical one. So we're going to put that up to 180 degrees. And it's nice that they've got the wheel there, so you can do it visually or you can just type in the degrees, depending on which one is easier for you. And we'll just move it over to the side of the screen because that's where we want it to live in the game anyway. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, as before, we're going to add that event in, and the event is that when we click the green button, the game is going to start. And after that, we want that forever again, so that as long as the game is running, these actions continue to occur. So there it is. However, we are also going to add in an if then. So this is a conditional, basically. It's basically saying if a certain thing is the case, then do something different. So put this inside, and it goes inside the forever block because it's part of the action we want to always be true. There it is. And now we are looking at the actual controls. So we're going to go to the sensing section here. This is basically Scratch asking for its input. It's asking for how you can control this object. And this particular thing, it's when a key is pressed. So we're going to bring in the key pressed thing. And the thing I learnt from doing this quickly last time is I was trying to click it and I was like, oh, it's just going to go in. You have to put the left hand side of it, and it goes, you can see that it goes white around the gap that you're dropping it into, in which case it slots nicely into place. And for this one, this is over on the right hand side of our screen, so I'm going to make this the down arrow. If we press the down arrow, then what's going to happen? Well, we want the paddle to move. So we're going to go back to the motion section here, and we're going to select change Y by 10. What does that mean? Well, a bit like in maths and on a graph, we're breaking our screen down into an x-axis, which is the flat axis left to right, and the y-axis, which is the up-down axis. In this particular instance, because our paddle is moving up and we want it to move up and down, we want it to move along the y-axis. So we are going to drop that in there. But same with maths again. On your graph, normally the positive numbers are above and the negative numbers are below. So if we're pressing the down arrow, we don't want it to move upwards, we want it to move down. So instead of it going, changing it by 10, we're going to ask it to move by -10. Wonderful. Okay, we've done that there. And then we are going to do the same thing again. Another if then. Here it comes. Which is going to sit underneath. This time, if the up arrow is pressed, and we're going to change Y by 10. And this one we don't need to edit because when we're pressing the up button, we do want it to go up, into the positive. Well, let's have a look, see if that's even worked. Should be quite easy to test. So the ball's off and running. I'm pressing the up button and it disappears up, and if I press the down button, it comes all the way down. Nice. Now, I think if you watched Samal's video, you saw that he fiddled around with his a little bit because he wanted the paddle to stop when it hit the edge of the thing, so that you didn't run off the edge of the screen like that. But I'm not doing that right now because it's not in the PDF. It might be something I do as a little fiddle at the end. That's brilliant. We can stop that for a moment. Okay. So that's step 4 done and dusted. That had 12 steps in it, and we did it in 6 minutes, less than 4 minutes, and just only basically 5 different bits of thing to put together. What are we going to do next? Well, we're going to do step 5, duplicate it. So all that means is we're going to go over to our paddle and we're going to right click on it over here in the library, and we're just going to press duplicate. So now we've got 2. We're going to move this one over to the left hand side of the screen so that it can be the opponent for the one on the left, on the right. The problem we've got right now is they both have the same commands. So if I press the up button, they both go up, and if I press the down button, they both go down, which isn't the most exciting competitive game if everything's being controlled by one person in the same way. So paddle 2, we're going to just change the keys, and we're going to use for going down S, and for going up W. Why is it S and W? I'm sure someone much smarter than me could tell you exactly why, but there has been a long history in particular PC gaming, non-console based computer games, that the W, A, S and D keys are like mimics of the up, down, left and right keys, and that has been around for I think as long as I have been alive. There must be a really obvious reason why that is the case, probably to do something with back in the history of computing, but I don't know what it is, and if you're really interested in finding out, then Google exists. You can go and find out for yourselves, and then you can put it in a comment in the video below and tell me why I should have known this really obvious fact. So I'm just going to stop that for a second, and now we can see that if I press the down key, then the right hand one goes down, and if I press the S key, then the other one goes down, and W, and now I can control them both separately using the keys on my computer at different times. Wonderful. Okay, back to the PDF. Step 5, done. We're on to the final page. We are literally, we have two steps left to go, and it's been 18 minutes. I reckon I can get this done in under 20 total. So the last thing we've got to do is, at the moment, our game isn't much fun because the paddles move up and down, but the ball doesn't interact with them in any way. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our ball and tell it basically to start to recognise these other objects that are in the screen. So underneath the movement block, we're going to add a conditional again, which is if, where is it, control, if then, drop that in there. And apparently we're going to do this twice, so I'm going to drop that one in there as well, again, to remind me. So, sensing first, if it is touching, there we are, top one, we've got a drop down list there of options, so it could be the edge of the screen, or it could be one of the other objects in the library, or the mouse. In this one we're going to go for paddle. Then it should turn at 90 degrees. We'll go back to our motion. We're going to have it turn right at 90 degrees. Here we are. And basically, if it touches the other paddle, we're going to have it do the same thing. So we just have to put this in a second time, and this time select paddle 2. And now if you want to, if it's confusing for you, you can rename all of your objects. So it doesn't have to be ball and paddle 2. It could be, if you right click on them, no, if you click on them, then the name is just here above. And we could change paddle to, oh, this one's the first one, so it's going to be right bat. And this one here, we could make left bat. Back to the ball. So if it's touching the right bat, then it turns 90 degrees to the right. And if it's touching the left bat, then it's going to also turn 90 degrees to the right. Okay. Cool. Let's just stop that. Okay. So we can now see if we play the game. There it is. The ball just finally has bounced off of that bat, and now it's bouncing off this bat, and that one there. And finally, there we are. So the game is working. The mechanics are working. It's doing what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to do it, which is wonderful. The final thing we can do, or should do, just drop back to the PDF, is to put in a new background or to change the colour of the balls and the paddles. So I'm just going to do that. Again, the background image is underneath my face, down here in the bottom right hand corner. So you can't see what I was clicking on to get there. But what have we got? We've got all kinds of interesting backgrounds that we could use for other games or pop-ups or little things. There is one that I really liked, which I saw before, which is, where's it gone? It's like a neon, crazy sci-fi space. Why can't I see it? There it is, Neon Tunnel. Should have remembered, shouldn't I? Neon, so it's in alphabetical order. So that's there as a background. And if we want to, we can change all of the costumes on these things as well. So that's just our background. But if I wanted to, I could change the ball and say, let's, instead of what we've got, let's have ball B. Let's have the blue ball instead, because that goes nicely against that background. And then for the bats, or the left-hand paddle, let's go with like bright neon pink. Oh, I hadn't selected it, so I just need to select the bit that I'm trying to change. So we're going to go for a bright neon pink for the center, and the outline should be, what do we think? Like a dark. I don't want it to be too dark because it's a dark background. So perhaps like a light. No, oh, horrible, awful colour. Let's go for something a bit brighter, maybe a bit more orange. Orange, and then you can see this is a bit of a blend, this one. So we've got orange and red. Sure, there we are. That's really garish, and looks absolutely disgusting. So perfect, we should go with that one. And we can see that the right bat has changed to that horrible monstrosity. And we'll quickly do the left bat as well. Change this one over here. and this one I think will go for like the outside would be like a bright blue in the middle, fading to a strange green on the sides, like that, sort of yellowy green, and then in the middle, let's put just white, I think, if we can. Why is it not done? I didn't select it, did I? Never learn. So that's just got a white interior, and there we are. And now we can just watch it play, or rather we can play it. So off it goes, and I move the paddles around. There we are. Pretty much everything that's happening, I made happen, which is wonderful. What would I do next? Well, if I was going to fiddle with this longer and like try and work more things out, a bit like Samal did, then I would definitely be fixing those paddles so that they didn't go off the edge of the screen and they stopped. What else is missing? Well, at the moment, there's no end. So there's nothing that says if the ball doesn't hit the paddle and it hits one of the edges of the screen on the left or right, then we should stop the game, restart it, and score a point. Probably needs a point counter as well, so that we can see if we've been successful or not, and who's winning. Right now, this game could be played very simply, just by two people sat at a keyboard, but maybe I wanted to make it that each player had a different controller. And that might mean I need to plug in more than one keyboard and ask it to find a specific keyboard. Or maybe I want one player to have the keyboard and the other player to use the mouse, which would be a bit weird, but it's an option. So yeah, there's a few little things that I could tweak, and I'm sure, although none of that is in the PDF, it can't be too complicated to find out how to work it out. So I might have a little play around with that over the next few hours and see if I can get that there, and then maybe I'll put a little short snippet of what I managed to achieve at the end of this video. But yeah, done the whole thing, finished it off, did all the colouring, and it took about the same time as last time, but, gonna be honest, I have definitely explained it in better detail this time round. So, if you find that at all interesting, and if you've got literally a spare 25 minutes or half an hour, and fancy just trying something out really quickly, you can go to Scratch online, which is scratch.mit.edu or edu, or follow the links in the video below, which will take you to the page directly. And if you want to get started with this and follow the PDF that I have been using, then you can head to the National Videogame Museum's website and download all of their assets for free that really easily and quickly step you through what you can do to get started with making games. Obviously, it is really, really easy and early. So, you know, we're not making Minecraft here. We're not making Fortnite. We are making a game that first existed a full 12 years before I was born. But the fact that we can do that now for free in a browser on the internet really shows you the amount of leaps and bounds that we've come on, and how easy and accessible this early stuff is. So if you've got a young person and you don't know what to do with them over the next 36 hours or 72 hours or whatever it is over the last little bit of the half term before they go back into online learning with school, then feel free to pop them onto the website and basically tell them how easy it is, and basically say, I bet they can do a better job what I did, and it'll be quicker. Thanks so much for joining us. Look forward to sharing more content with you over the next few weeks as we continue to follow along with these design at homes. The next big thing that we're going to be looking at is Twine, which is a kind of like narrative storytelling, and really interesting way of creating like the story of your game. And working out what's going on there. I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth stuck into that section of it. And at some point down the line, hopefully you can also see the work that Simao and I have been doing to try and bring all of these elements together into something that is vaguely playable and could maybe be classed as a game. I'm certainly excited to see where we are in only a few weeks' time. Thanks so much, everybody, and stay safe.